Hello, welcome back to our Urban Voices. I am Chris Clayman. I'll be your host today, not Alfonse Javed. Alfonse, he has previously interviewed me for this podcast. The tables are turned now, Alfonse. And you might know this, but Alfonse has a very unique perspective on many topics due to his incredible background. Today, you're going to get to learn more about his journey from hatred to love for Muslims. Alfonse is currently the senior pastor of First Baptist Metuchen, New Jersey. He's the founder of the Heart for Muslims Conference and Resources and Aid Mobilization in Pakistan. He holds at least three postgraduate degrees, was born and raised in Pakistan. Plus, you'll even get to hear a joke from Alfonse himself. Just introduce myself. I'm Chris, co-founder, associate director of Global Gates, evangelical mission organization, mobilizing prayer missionaries for the most unreached people group communities in North America. I'm also in the executive team of Heart for Muslims Conference. All right, Alfonse, are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it. It's
fantastic.
Fun. I want to hear all about. I get to do this with everybody else today. I'm like a little bit nervous. I want to hear how I'm gonna respond to questions, how I'm gonna control my thoughts. It's so much easier to just say a word or two and just
I know you have thoughts, you just write books, but this has to be concise. It's different. So first, I know you love talking about your family. So tell us about your family.
Sure. I have 4 children. I'm married to Sarah, my wife, and she is from upstate New York, and we have known each other for 16 years.
Wow.
And now we have 4 children, and my oldest is 5, then 4. Then the second boy is 4, and then I have twin girls, beautiful, gorgeous little cuties who will be 2 in September. So yeah, we have 4 under 5. And it's fun. And Javed's house I love family. Yeah.
And you were not raised in upstate New York. You were raised elsewhere. So talk about your background. What was it like growing up as a Christian in an Islamic republic in a Muslim majority country?
Sure. Well, I was born in Pakistan, and as you know, Pakistan was it's still an extremely beautiful country with so much to offer to the world, and some of the best philosophers, poets, and musicians, and even Nobel Prize winners have come out of Pakistan. But unfortunately, in the 1980s, everything changed under a regime, and it brought Islam, or the idea of the regime was to Islamicize Pakistan, and therefore it became very extreme country, and gradually minorities were left to be just a people that nobody cares. And I grew up in that kind of environment.
What age were you at that time?
I was born in 80.
Okay.
1980. So I was born into that. My formative years were under that regime. So all I saw was that kind of place where all you are hearing is Islam is the only path. Muslims are the only people supposed to be, they're supposed to be prevailing. They're supposed to be the leading. They are the only people that God loves and God likes, and they are God's people. And I was in my school, and when the books were altered, and the books were, textbooks were teaching everybody that, Christians are not worshiping God, they worship 3 gods, and Hindus are worshippers of multiple gods, and Jews are come out of apes, and all kind of bad stuff. A lot of hatred was preached, and of course it challenged my own personal belief, to kind of like shook me to my core. It might, when you are a little kid and this is all you know, and you are treated as somebody who's not supposed to be in that country. Actually, the meaning that we heard from day one were the meanings of Pakistan is La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, which is a creed, which is not true. The meaning of Pakistan is Pakistan, a land of the pure. And even the founder himself, he said Pakistan just turned 75, and his speech first speech was that we're not going to treat you according to your ethnicity or your religion. Go wherever you want to go and worship whoever you want to worship. But that's not the case. That's not the case. By the time I reached my teens, I was literally persecuted, where the guy just threw me on the floor and he was about to hit me with a ice pick, and God just delivered me because somebody else saw me, and they're like, "Oh, I know this guy. That's not the guy you're looking for." And they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I was looking for another Christian too. I wanted to kill another Christian, but you are the wrong Christian guy."
Oh my goodness.
So therefore, they're like, "Okay, you can go now." And I was like, that kind of stuff, when in the street you are not safe just because your life is meaningless because you're not Muslim. So when you're Muslim, there is a security. You can get a job. You can all these kind of things, like from minor day-to-day persecution to a real persecution when you're running for your life. My dad been in prison for so many times for building a church. When I'm running for my life, hiding, and all these kind of things are part of this growing up experience that changed my perspective. First on Christianity, and then later on Islam, and then again on Christianity and Islam when I came to know the Lord Jesus Christ. So I say those kind of things, created hostility, first against Christian God and then against Muslim God, who caused Muslim to treat me that way. So, yeah.
So you grew up in that environment that obviously has an effect on how you view Muslims throughout the world. Now we know that you have been involved with obviously a conference called Heart for Muslims, written books about love for Muslims. What changed your perspective about Muslims from that point to where you're at today?
I think it was, as I said, that is just that same thought that I always had against Christianity in the early days, because my dad is a pastor in Pakistan. That's what it's a Christian family. So I heard about the gospel. I heard about this God who is loving and kind and cares and provides and all the other things. But yet the evidence was the opposite to what I was taught, right? So there was no food. There's hardly any clothes, and you constantly on the run, and your dad is always out. All kind of stuff just pointed me toward this narrative that maybe that God is not the God that my mom and dad are talking about. But Muslim God, on the other hand, was providing to all my friends and my classmates and all that. So that was the first thing, right? But then when the Lord changed my heart, it was at the age of 14, there was an attack on our church and back in Pakistan. Bullet was flying, people got shot. It was awful. My dad is missing. My brothers are missing. My two brothers are missing. My mom is out in the street with my younger sisters, who are very small little girls, and she is crying. And I arrive from my grandparents' house, and as soon as I get there, I see this situation, and my first reaction was, give me a gun. Is there anybody who has a gun? I want to shoot back. All I want to do is shoot back. I wanted revenge. That's all I wanted. But nobody had a gun. Nobody gave me a gun. Thank God there was nobody. Otherwise I would have been rotten in prison. But thank God. And then I saw this, like from the back wall, there was a little hole. I saw through this hole, the door, the main gate of the church opened. For somehow it opened. And then I saw these bullets. By this time it was already late night, dark. It was dark out. So I saw bullets flying, like fire going from the bullets shooting through the guns. I can see them shooting. And then I see this guy, like almost like a movie. It just skipped him. He just like, and
oh my,
goes up. It's like that kind of scene. And I'm seeing that from this little, a missing brick place where they actually, when they construct a wall, they put these bamboos to build a ladder. So that's why this was missing. I'm seeing this. And I was like, it can't happen. This is impossible. There gotta be God. God is protecting us. Oh, God is here. And then I broke down and said, Lord, if you are real, just deliver us from this. And I commit my life to you. I will never, ever, ever, go away. I will always follow you. God did
Wow.
that. But with that, God also changed my mind too. When I arrived in the United States, that's where my heart was changed.
Mm,
First a few years, if you read my first book, it has a lot of that hatred based, not false. It's just because what I experienced, I just showed in that book, and it comes from that section of people who preach and practice hateful Islam, and
mm,
they are preaching and practicing terrorism. They do not understand the dignity of life. Exactly what Zia and his government was trying to do in the 80s.
mm,
And that's what I learned. That's what I saw. So I reported that. But then something changed in my own heart as I start to see Muslim being persecuted here,
mm,
being looked down upon. Even myself, when I saw people seeing me and treating me as if I was the enemy of this land. So I was not I was not taken as a friend of Pakistan, nor I was taken as a
mm,
citizen or friend of US either. Here I was
mm,
treated as Muslim or Pakistani. Over there I was
mm.
treated as um, a Christian and possibly allied to America who's attacking Muslim lands.
Oh, wow.
So when you don't have any home and you are the persecuted one, then you begin to understand the pain of others who are being persecuted, regardless of their ethnicity, background, and the cause for persecution. And that's just changed my heart. I said, okay, there got to be somebody who got to stand up for Muslims, because
Mm,
not all Muslims, the majority Muslims are represented by a very small minority when it comes to terrorism, fanatic thought, and all that. Majority Muslims, the Muslims that I grew up with, they are willing to share their meal. They are willing to do.
mhm,
They live life. They are the one who show up when you need them. But then also, I was victimized by Muslims who were holding that the ice pick and trying to kill you, right? So those both type of people existed there, they exist here. So
mm,
that changed my perspective. And when God gave me a position in a influential church in Midtown Manhattan, I decided to pursue love and preach love. And
mm,
out of that, God brought you, a couple of our friends, to host this conference. You and me sat down. You remember that back in
mhm.
in those days we were in Florida, and so many of us were from Metro. And I said, why we don't do this in New York? Oh, let's do it. And we said even like 40 people will be a victory. And then God brought this amazing number. So I
Mm,
think that changed my perspective. My
mm,
perspective was changed because I saw Muslim as minority here. Just the way Muslims were treating, majority Muslims were treating minority Christians there, here, minority as minority, they were treated by other,
mm,
especially by Christians. When they were treated by Christians, it was hurting me because that was not gospel.
mm,
I was hurting them by proclaiming something that was not godly.
mm,
So it changed me. And then I started talking about the love of Christ, because that's the only thing that can change their heart. That changed my heart for Muslims
mhm,
forever. Um,
mm,
so that's pretty much what changed me. The love of Christ, the love of Christ that brought him from heaven to earth, and he died for our sins and he rose again, right? That same love that constrained him to that frail body, or that caused him to empty himself and become nothing. That same agape
mm,
love, I think, uh, caused me to have a different perspective on my life. And also because of, I'm grateful now that I went through those experiences, because it caused me to think differently and love
mm.
Muslims out of that experience, what I saw and experienced.
And you migrated to America after 9/11, is that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
So you experienced all of the things that came from Americans post 9/11 towards Muslims. You experienced that
Yeah.
towards yourself, gave
Yeah.
you a new empathy towards
That's right.
Muslims.
That's right.
And then that led to kind of this other journey with Christ. Talk a little bit more about starting the Heart for Muslims conference. Why was that an important thing for you to be a part of?
Yeah. I think Recently, I saw a study, like not recently, 2 years ago, I saw a study, and they said conferences are that new method that is influencing people. Now, whether that is Christian conference or some other conference, it doesn't matter. But the idea is when people come together, when you have people like-minded or people who oppose your understanding, when they come together, there's a place to discuss content or whatever that main reason that brought people together. For me, that was, as I said, that when we met in Florida, Jackson's, I think that was, I forgot the name of the town.
Jacksonville. Mhm.
Jacksonville, yeah. I saw this beautiful camaraderie. I saw a few people, very few people, among millions of people um, trying to give a new narrative, opposing to the prevailing narrative about Muslims, and they are seeing the immigrant or this huge number of Muslims in the United States as a threat. And this group, small little group, is seeing that as an opportunity to love them and show them that we are different. And I also connected that back to my country or many other Muslim countries. There's over 50 Muslim countries where they're majority. I saw that as a opportunity. What if we, the church, begin to love Muslims here?
Mhm.
And they go back home, or when they connect to their people back home, they share with each other like, no, 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 no. Christians are different. I experience them. They are treating us this way. Such an amazing, love that we have experienced in the
Mhm.
United States. Why can't we show that to Christians here in Pakistan or India or Saudi or Iraq or wherever they are from? So when I saw that, that was part of the reason. But then other thing was, I was encouraged. I was just encouraged by this small group of people, just with what they were doing. They was kind of like a support group,
Mhm.
loving on each other, and they're sharing their what I think that God gave them as a tools and techniques that been they experimented with, and they were working. They were hashing out like, okay, what works, what doesn't work. Oh, this is great. And I was like, we need this kind of platform. We need
Mhm.
this in New York. Metro New York has the largest, I think, one of the largest Muslim population in the world when it comes
Mhm.
to Western world.
Mhm.
And I was like, we need that. And when I spoke to you, it was both in a sense that you brought this missionary perspective, and I brought this loving, um, uh, loving perspective from a pastoral heart. I wanted to really
Mhm.
encourage the church to be the church.
Mhm.
And then I saw you as a mission agency, a parachurch, doing the same thing. So why couldn't? Then the thought was, let's pull
Connect
these.
those worlds. Mhm.
Exactly. What it will look like if the church becomes the church of Jesus Christ
Mhm.
and loves on them. I think then we can change the world. It's not only we are proclaiming heart for Muslims, because Jesus has heart for Muslims, because we want to eliminate the fear of Islam and promote love for Muslims because Jesus loved them. But it's
Mhm.
also the element of equipping them. That's where parachurch ministries come in. Those
Equipping them.
practitioners come
Mhm.
in. So bringing them together became the reason. And Muslim Next Door is the same way. The book is literally the book I wrote. Muslim Next Door was is questions I collected over the first 12 years of my life as a missionary.
Mhm.
People ask me questions, I put them down. And when I got into pastoral ministry, I was like, oh, even inside the church, people have the same questions. Okay.
Mhm.
And I think even this year we are doing conference, our whole main thrust of the argument is the power of proximity, how your culture, location, and shared experiences can bring Christ to Muslims.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter where you live. If you're listening to, I just want to take advantage of this interview. If you're listening to the podcast and you let's say you don't have any Muslims in your close proximity, but I tell you, the internet has brought people together. That
Mhm.
is, that's amazing. And then Muslims are everywhere, especially if you are in an urban setting. You will find Muslim in New York. We have it in Addison area right now. I'm in Metuchen, Addison area. We have a lot of Muslims here. They need to see God's people moving with God's love and changing lives here and around the world. They want to see that. They want to see that with their
Mhm.
eyes. So I think that's exactly why in those early days, you and I, when we start talking, that's what we want to do. We wanted to encourage the church to follow Christ. We wanted to equip them and provide them opportunity to serve Christ, right?
Yeah, it seems like most people, when they get interested in ministry with Muslims, because we don't know much, especially we didn't grow up in that sort of background. We're Muslim majority country. You learn a whole lot to try to win arguments. And
Right.
there have been surveys done of thousands of Muslim background Christians. Why did you come to Christ? Never at the top of the list was apologetics, even though it might be good to know for your own confidence that you have the truth.
Right.
The number one reason always is the love of Christians, the love of Christ that got them interested in finding out the truth and light behind it. So important. Switching gears now to talk about the podcast, which is actually a subsidiary of Heart for Muslims. What prompted you to start Our Urban Voices, and what does that actually mean?
So Urban Voices was born in the middle of pandemic, and we were so the conference. Conference is all about bringing people together, and when you are limited by the
Yeah.
pandemic, and you were not allowed to actually you were forbidden to meet in gathering, to gather people in a location. We were forced to think creatively. We were forced to think logistically how it will work out for us if we take this online. So we did a conference during the pandemic. It was beautiful. It was fruitful. I got to hear so many wonderful stories. Our mutual friends from actually they work for your organization. They reported several baptisms because during the pandemic from Bangladeshi
Mhm.
background, I got to hear all of those because of the conference. But then I realized, well, at least in person, we were able to connect and then follow through. And throughout the year, we were hosting small events and doing
Mhm.
outreaches. But now we are limited. There got to be some sort of outreach we can do. And the
Mhm.
best thing that I came out of that little change was I got to hear stories. I said, okay, stories matter. Stories matter. And why do we
Mhm.
just hear them in a conference and then they die? I mean, they don't, the stories don't die, of
If you
course, but
weren't there, it's done. Yeah.
correct, it's gone.
Mhm.
So the idea was, and around the same time, podcast was showing up everywhere. Everywhere, it became itself is a what became a pandemic. Everybody was on podcast doing some sort of
Mhm.
podcast. I was like, okay, all right, God is speaking very clearly that we need to envision a platform where we can become the voice. And then simultaneously, around the same time, the George. You remember in New York, it was awful after George Floyd's murder, and it became a
Mhm.
huge deal. Everybody was, we saw the protests in the streets. So
Mhm.
that another issue, churches were divided over that. And I was like, I heard young people leading those Christian young people leading that. There was like whole this complicated issue with the BLM movement versus supporting Black life and all that. I was like, you know what? This is amazing. Now I have this two things that I want to accomplish. I want to
Okay.
hear people who are making difference for the Lord Jesus Christ in urban setting, but it's not only the people from Muslim background are coming to Christ, but also this is happening justice movement, social justice or justice movement out of mercy of Christ is happening. And then I saw testimonies of church plants. I was like, okay,
Mhm.
perfect. We're gonna pull all these things and we're gonna start inviting people. And we're gonna hear urban voices, our urban voices, who are
Mhm.
practitioners, who are working in the field, who are trying to make a difference at least, and pull these voices together and provide a platform. So there gotta be audience out there that's looking for these voices to come out of the urban settings like New York City. So that's how the podcast was born. And I think over the period of time we have received good comments. It's growing. And
Mhm.
it was about time that the staff thought that people need to know you too as a host. So there is nobody else like Chris. I was like,
Mm.
perfect. Chris needs to come and interview me. And we're
Well,
going
I
to get
think one of the things that you've always done well is seeing the raising up the voice of people who don't have natural platforms to have a voice. And so I think that is something very valuable that needs to come from the cities, because our largest churches, really, you're seeing this increasingly in the Western context, the thriving spiritual centers of our cities are usually happening because of immigrants. It's not just Muslims and Hindus and Buddhists and Sikhs and Jewish people coming here. Most migrants are actually Christians, and they are spreading their spiritual fervor and flavor into our cities. And so being able to give a voice to that phenomena is maybe what will save the American church.
Amen.
Sometimes when we think about reaching the nations, we have this picture of the Indiana Jones type, with the machete going through, translating the language on the side, people that have never seen a foreigner wherever that foreigner happens to be from that's coming to give the gospel. Mm-hmm. Urban ministry doesn't look like that at all. So what makes urban ministry an important part of what God is doing globally?
Well, let me say this. I have learned this from you when I landed in New York City and God connected us. Those days I was working with the Parachurch Ministry, Hefsba House in upper, West Side. And God just brought us in this beautiful relationship through the power of the gospel. We both loved missions, loved the city. God has brought you from many experiences. God gave me some of those too. And when we connected, I got to learn from you. I mean, I saw this book. You put that together, ethnicity. Hold on. Ethnicity, right? No.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
The Nations, Tongues, and Faiths of Metropolitan New York. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just went through that and I was like, man, this is amazing. New York City is not just a commercial hub. It's not just Wall Street and suits. It's more than that. It's not a mover and shaker in politics of the world, but it is more than that. It's something great is happening here. And I went through those like, oh, that's my people. Punjabis are there. Oh, Pakistanis. Oh my gosh. There is a neighborhood, little Pakistan. If that's how I felt, think about other nations. Let's start looking at whole world was captured there in that book. I was learning about new people group. And I was like, and then because of my background in missions, I'm looking at the unreached people group. I was like, wow. So you don't have to go all over the world. God is bringing people right here in the city. And then I came across Pastor Tim Keller's book too. And his whole ministry approach was city centers and gateways. Your organization, Global Gate, is an example of that, right? And all these got connecting. And then I'm hearing from other practitioners. Ran into another brother that we a mutual friend of ours, Boto, and gradually numbers start growing and more people I'm seeing, and they're talking about these cities, urban cities, being at the center of this new gospel movement. And I'm seeing that, oh, my, it's no longer you gotta leave from a port on a boat to go somewhere. It's the hub cities where people are coming and flying and all the other things that are happening, and people are coming from other places. Even in United States, the same thing. People are coming from Midwest, South, and everywhere else in New York City. But then I also saw that this urban cities like New York cities are also refuge cities. I did not know that. Being there, I realized that, our law actually allows these illegal immigrant or people who are persecuted and run for their life to come and hide and take shelter. Wouldn't it be cool? Wouldn't it be cool if we focus on these people? And that's exactly what I mean. Brothers like you who've been in those cities and sowing the seed and connecting and sharing the stories, that changed my heart. And I think that's the idea of Urban Voices too, that we want to get these voices out there so people can hear how God is changing nations because what is taking place. Literally, the United Nations is in New York City. Come on, right?
Yeah.
So you have these things right there for a reason.
Mhm.
And then our job is to step in. So what makes urban ministry an important part of reaching nations? I think that because God is moving in that direction. God is doing many things, but in this time, right
Yeah.
now, the season that we are in, I think that's what God is doing. I see him there.
Yeah, when you talk about like the modern missionary movement since really William Carey, they talk about three major eras, to the coastlands that kind of coincided with colonization. Then there were to the inlands of people like Hudson Taylor would be a symbol of that, of contextualization became important. Then you saw over the last 50 years, the rise of understanding of just not geography, but also distinct people groups and languages and how many would be hidden still. It does seem like we're moving into a fourth era of missions where all those other things are still realities, but we are becoming so globalized and urbanized and transnational that we have got to kind of raise up what does ministry look like in this new era and figure that out.
Yes, exactly. You have said much better than I would have been able to articulate. You said so well. And I think that's precisely why we need to serve. We need to share this. The conversation we are having, I hope somebody hear this and God moves his or her heart and they end up in New York City. I heard, this, I'm sure this guy, he writes as a friend. I consider him friend. He's a missiologist, Barthwick. And he wrote this book and he calls that urban jungle. He gives the idea of urban jungle, that we live in those days, primitive, jungles. You will go there and talk to those people and do the things. But now we live in urban jungles. This is the place where we need to invest. And you don't need, maybe the methodology has changed too. Now we need, what we're looking at is maybe we need to put people in a financial district where they are rubbing shoulders with men and women who are pursuing a different God, right? We need to pursue God. Same thing with, just as it is important to talk to a Muslim person in Brooklyn or somewhere else, or a Hindu person in Jackson Heights, or a Sikh person. Same thing, I think, is true for those folks who are considered 1%. They need Jesus too.
Yeah.
And where are they? They are in the cities.
So talk real quick about the uniqueness of Muslim ministry in the urban context and the importance of kind of understanding the urban context for reaching Muslims.
I think when you have, it goes back to what we already discussed, that God is bringing people here, right? And almost wherever I see, whether I'm looking at Bombay or London, New York City, of course, Detroit, we are seeing a large number of Muslims coming together. Large. And why do they come together? Because, of course, if I'm coming from Pakistan, I'm going to look for a Pakistani community. Why? Yeah. Okay, well, one, the language or culture, food, and then I can, even if I'm not well educated, still I'm going to find something, because the businesses are owned by other Muslims. And so if a Muslim person comes, that's where they're going to go, and they're going to settle. Two, these are the people back home. And I think you may remember that episode where you shared with me that these folks, when they go back, I had the same conversation with a couple of other guests on the podcast too. And the idea was, when these Muslim people come to Christ, and when they first time here, because back home, they're not allowed to talk about Jesus. Evangelism is forbidden. Discussing spiritual manners, discussing Jesus is forbidden. Yes, Jesus is a prophet. Yes, Jesus is a good man. Yes, you got to believe in Jesus, but not believe him as savior, because you don't need a savior. Why you don't need a savior? Well, you don't have a original sin. You have original forgiveness. All these things been part of their culture, part of their lives. And it doesn't make sense to them when Christians are living in awful circumstances in majority Muslim world, that why should I even consider Christianity? But when they
Mm.
come here, there's an open door. They see
Yeah.
different way. There's a liberty to think, speak, which I'm
Mhm.
very grateful for. May the
Mhm.
Lord continue to bless America and help America to be that leader in that,
Mhm.
freedom of speech and all that. But this is an important point in my, I think, in all these conversations. When these folks hear about Christ and they go back to their countries, even if they are here just putting gas in New Jersey, almost every in New Jersey they put gas in your car. So
Mhm.
even if they have that job, but back home they are treated like, you know,
Royalty. Mhm.
yes, exactly. So they are, people want to listen to them. They are the boss. They are the, whether that is because, oh, this guy made it to the best country in the world, and therefore,
Mhm.
or maybe like my dad. My dad will host every a person coming from America in the hope that one day this person will help his children to get to America. It didn't materialize in that, but
Uh-huh.
hope was there. So whatever
Uh-huh.
reason, they will treat him like, oh, he's here.
Mhm.
And this is, it's a universal truth in third world country. They
Mhm.
want good for their children, so they keep these kind of connection. But these connection allow them to hear from the person.
Yeah.
Um, and I think these things are making difference. I heard story from you how actually it would be nice if you share that story where this, you found out that about this Muslim in this Muslim tribe, Muslim country, in this small tribe, the guy came to Christ in at Heart for Muslims, and then he ended up uh, planting a church or leading that. So stories like this, these are becoming a norm now. I'm hearing more and more these kind of stories where people are going back in their
Yeah, it's
countries.
not like you have to convince people of this strategy. It's just something they are doing. And so it's planting yourself where the influence is flowing from the cities and the communication channels back to the least reached areas and peoples of the world. It is happening, and we're learning more and more each day as it naturally happens. I know most of your guests here on our Urban Voices are Christian, not all of them. But why do you think it's important to talk about things like South Asian dance and skiing in a sari or the sport of cricket as part of the podcast's overall emphasis on urban ministry?
Well, think this way. People are people groups are defined by not just their language, but also their tradition, what makes them that group, right? What they do, what they eat, what they wear. And those things are in ways to connecting people. So if when you see a sari, if you are somewhere, let's say in South Dakota, and suddenly you see
Mm-hmm.
somebody in sari,
Mm-hmm.
immediately you know that, oh, that's not, oh wow, that's different. That sari person represent a whole
Sorry
nation, or
for our
that.
listeners, what is a sari?
Oh, sari is a outfit that women wear
There
in
you go.
India, Sri Lanka,
Mm-hmm.
Bangladesh, even in Pakistan. So they say women outfit, a dress for
Mm-hmm.
women. So simple thing like that is just unique, is different, but that's how most people in India dress. I mean,
Yeah.
most women dress.
Yeah.
But that's also a good place where we talk about difference, but also um, something that is unique, and that brings us together. And when we bring a person who is talking about culture, I think culture allows us to talk about their urban, because these things are dance. For example, we had somebody who that's what they do, dance, Punjabi,
Mm-hmm.
Bengali, that kind of
Mm-hmm.
dance, because that's part of culture. Music brings people together. Sports bring people together. So whatever brings people together, that allows us to have conversations, even spiritual conversations in those gatherings. So when we bring people together, we are look from these different backgrounds, whether that's based on sari or dance or cricket. We're
Mm-hmm.
looking at what connects people, what unites people, what, there is so much hatred, so much hatred.
Mm-hmm.
But is there a way to call them and say that, hey, do you love cricket? Oh yeah, I do. Just you look at like art people go to a baseball game and they are just having fun. They come out like, oh yeah, they're so excited. They don't know
Mhm.
each other, but because of that game, now they're connected. They have
Yeah.
communication, and all
Mhm.
that we hear their hearts.
Yeah.
We are able to hear their voices, their problems, their challenges, what they love,
Mm.
what they don't. I
Mm.
think that's what one of the reasons why we connect these voices, because all of these cultural things we do and habits and rituals we have, all of this makes us human and
Mhm.
connects us as people. So urban voices is not just like, oh, all I'm going to do is I'm going to sit here and talk about Bible. No, I want to hear other people, what makes them excited about God or creation or as a community. Is there any in way? Is there a way that I can start a communication? Is there a way that probably become a point of conversation? If the person likes cricket, for
Yeah.
me, if I want to reach out to a Hindu person or a Muslim person, maybe that's the place. That's my in way. I want
It's
to
like those little
learn.
cultural cues, symbols, dresses, all those things open up door. They're just begging out for you to ask, what is this? And
Yes.
so you as a Christian can go, hey, what they started this the conversation for you by wearing it and being distinct around what is it that you're playing? What are you wearing? And then you're able to go, wow, tell me more about your story. And because you're interested in their story, they're going to show interest in your story as well. And that's where
Yeah.
you really
Yeah.
kind of get into deeper levels of conversation.
Exactly.
As
Life.
absolutely.
That's
And
life.
as we begin closing out this episode, is there anything else you'd like to add to this conversation?
I will. Yes, I do actually. I think there are way too many things that divide us. Way too many things. I mean, you can simple thing. I have iPhone right here, and it's an older version. And yet yesterday I had a good friend. He was like, he has Android, and it's like, oh man, the iPhone is this and that. He's just going on that, and he's praising. So small things even divide us. Small things. Churches are
Mm-hmm.
the same way. The world is same way. It's the whole world is divided over things, but there's always in the midst of this old division that divides us. There's so many things, right? But there's small little thing that unite us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is what I'm hoping that urban voices will share. Perhaps people, those who live outside the city, need to hear something from that voice, whether it's a Muslim voice, a voice of a church planter, or a voice of a Hindu girl who loves a dance and sharing her cultural background. I don't know what it is, but I think there
Mm-hmm.
gotta be something that will connect us. Whether it's the love for music, dance, cricket, love for people. For me, if I think about Heart for Muslims, is my unique experiences that God led me through. So that's what I'm hoping to just, that's the only thing I want to add, that there are so many things that divide us, but there are very few things that unite us. And if we could come along and just pinpoint those and bring that voice,
Mm-hmm.
little, turn that voice a little bit louder,
Yeah.
so people can hear out loud that, oh, okay, yeah, that something. So that's something that Urban Voices is doing. It's just turning the volume a little bit and putting the spotlight on those uniting things. I'm not. This show is not about dismissing the awful things that are happening in all
Sure.
around. It's not to dismiss those things. No, no, no. But there's something always that can unite. That's the focus. We just putting the focus on what unites us.
It's easy to hate people you don't know, but when you have relationships, hear stories of people, even if they have totally different cultures, you're going to find something you resonate
Yeah.
with everyone, and that brings us together. Hey, Alfonse, if listeners want to get in touch with you or find your books, what are the easiest ways for them to do that?
So right here on when you send us a text or email or anything through Urban Voices website, Twitter, Facebook, it comes to us. It will come to the staff and eventually to me. But you can always just search my name and you will find either you can connect me with me through Twitter. Regularly, I tweet. then you can also connect with me through our, if it's official capacity, if it's a conference or a show or anything like that, we have a form on my personal website, alfonsejaved.com. Also on that same website, you can find my books, alfonsejaved.com. Simple.
Great. And I know you talk about a lot of heavy urban things, and I was one of your first guests on this podcast, and you said, hey, I want you to tell you a joke. Want me to tell you a joke? I had no idea. I wasn't ready. Didn't have my dad jokes ready, but you've been prepared. So to close this out, tell us a good joke.
Okay, my joke is super simple, easy one. This is my joke from 16 years ago when I met my wife, and I don't know why she said this, but
so
it's
it
been
worked.
our inside joke, and it's like, doesn't make sense, but it's a good joke. So, knock, knock.
Who's there?
Orange.
Orange who?
Orange juice. I have no clue. That's the joke. She laughs. I hope somebody else finds it amusing. And now my boys laugh on that one too. I don't know. You see, you're disappointed. I know, man. But that's the joke.
That's good. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on your own show, Alfonse Javed. Again, I'm Chris Clayman. That was your host, pastor and author, Dr. Alfonse Javed. Thank you to all our listeners. We truly could not do this without you. If you learned something, have a suggested topic for us to cover, would like to leave us feedback, drop us a note at oururbanvoices.com. That's oururbanvoices.com. Be sure to subscribe to the show, leave an honest review wherever you listen to your podcasts, and tune in next week because Alfonse is back as a guest. So I'll be hosting him as well as we talk about his perspective on Muslim ministry. Thank you.